Oh, the world is full of givers and takers. Let's talk about that one, shall we? Hey, good morning, everybody. Randy here with The Living Adventure. Hey, let's talk about givers and takers. Now, we've heard that term quite often, especially us HSPs. We know that all too well. As HSPs, we tend to be the givers. And we give to the point where we just have nothing left to give and we're exhausted. And that often triggers an emotional response because we don't know how to get out of that giving relationship. We're drained to the end and we need to terminate it. We know we need to terminate it, but we just don't know how to terminate it. The takers, on the other hand, I mean, they will just take because they're the ones gaining, right? And there's no end, and they don't want to terminate the relationship. They want to keep taking because they think you're an endless source of whatever they're after. And so how do we balance that out? How do we protect ourselves as HSPs against the takers, right? Well, set boundaries. Okay, well, how do we set boundaries? You know, boundary setting isn't that easy. It's a guilt that comes over us when we say no. When we hold a boundary, we create this boundary out of magical dust in the sand. And then all of a sudden we need to hold it. And that holding of that boundary means that we often have to say no, which then floods our body with guilt because we said no. And it's that guilt that guides us. It's our moral compass. It's what tells us what's right and what's wrong. And somewhere along the course of our lives, that moral compass has been damaged or altered. And it's usually in childhood where, you know, we've tried to hold boundaries based on our moral compass as a child, right or wrong, and we were disciplined for it, or we were punished, or we ran into a situation where it was painful. And this is how our moral compasses get out of alignment, is that, you know, facing these individuals who are more powerful than us, usually a parent or a caregiver, and we're trying to establish our boundaries for our own personal well-being. And let's face it, as children, we don't know boundaries. We don't. So we're exploring. We're pushing ourselves out there to try to see what are we capable of. And then all of a sudden, a parent comes along and says no, and we don't know why. And so this is a rejection. This is a rejection of a boundary. And so then when we set our boundaries and we say no, and then we get the retaliation, that's where our moral compass gets messed up. It's that guilt. What does guilt do for us? Guilt allows us to literally feel what's right and wrong. And so the reality of giving is when we're giving and giving and giving, you know, and they're taking and taking and taking, and then finally we reach a point where we have nothing left to give and we say no. Because of our misalignment of our moral compass, we feel guilt. And what we need to do is realign that moral compass. You know what's right and wrong. That's what guilt does for us. It tells us what's right and what's wrong if the moral compass is set correctly. So the purpose is to seek out a correct moral compass, recalibrate it, and figure what that out is. And how do we do that? Well, therapy is one. You know, you could go to therapy, get some guidance from people that have a well-aligned moral compass and follow them for a while and until you understand. Educate yourself and experience, right? Go out there and experience. And sometimes experience hurts. Yeah, it really does. You got to go out there and start saying no, feel that experience and understand why. And if you know in your heart that it's right to say no, yet the guilt is overwhelming you, then realize that that's the misalignment of the moral compass. And you need to realign it to the no. That's telling you to do that. And as you practice it, you'll find that your compass slowly comes in alignment again. And so, yeah, giving and taking is a painful exercise for HSPs, but realigning that moral compass helps you set those boundaries, which create a lack of guilt and therefore a better life and less draining on you as an HSP. Anyway, guys, I hope this one helps. Cheers.